The most respected person in any room is almost never the loudest one. Think about someone you genuinely respect, not someone you're impressed by for 5 minutes, someone whose opinion actually matters to you. Chances are, they're not the one talking the most. They're not the one performing confidence. They're doing something quieter than that, something most people never even consciously notice. There are specific, silent habits that shape whether people respect you, habits that have nothing to do with being loud, being right, or being impressive. And one of them, coming up near the end, is so counterintuitive that most people do the exact opposite and wonder why it's not working. Let's break down exactly what these habits are and why they work. Respect is built in the gaps, not the highlights. Here's something almost nobody tells you. Respect isn't built in the moments you're trying to earn it. It's built in the moments you're not thinking about it at all. Psychologists who study impression formation have found that people form lasting judgments less from someone's big, dramatic moments, and more from small, repeated, almost invisible behaviors. How someone treats a waiter, how they handle being interrupted, what they do when no one's clearly watching. These tiny moments accumulate into something much stronger than a single impressive performance, because they can't be faked for long. This matters, because it means the habits that build real respect are rarely the flashy ones. They're quiet, consistent, almost boring on the surface, which is exactly why most people overlook them completely while chasing something louder instead. So let's get into what they actually are, starting with one that costs you nothing, and most people still won't do it. The habit of listening to finish, not to reply. Here's the first one, and it's more powerful than almost anything else on this list. Most people, in most conversations, aren't actually listening. They're waiting for their turn to talk, mentally drafting their response while the other person is still mid-sentence. And here's the thing, people can feel this, even when they can't quite name it. It shows in the slightly too quick reply, the question that doesn't quite address what was just said. The habit that instantly shifts this is listening all the way to the end, before you start forming your response. Not just staying silent, actually letting the other person's point land fully, before your mind starts working on yours. This does two things at once. It makes the other person feel genuinely heard, which is rarer and more valuable than most people realize. And it means your response, when it comes, is actually built on what they said, not on what you'd already decided to say before they finished. People notice this, even subconsciously. It reads as respect, without you ever needing to say the word. And that's just the first one. The second is even harder to do, because it requires giving up something people are taught to want. The habit of not needing to be right. Here's a pattern worth watching for. The people who correct every small inaccuracy, who need the last word in every disagreement, who can't let a minor point go, are almost never the ones others describe as impressive. They're usually described as exhausting. Genuine respect tends to go toward people who can say, "Actually, you're right, I hadn't thought of it that way," without it costing them anything internally. This signals something specific, that their sense of self isn't fragile enough to need constant defending. And paradoxically, that steadiness is far more respect-generating than winning every small argument ever could be. This connects to something researchers call intellectual humility, not the absence of confidence, but the presence of enough security that being wrong occasionally doesn't feel like a threat. People with high intellectual humility are consistently rated by others as more trustworthy and more pleasant to work with, specifically because you never have to manage their ego in a disagreement. The habit here is simple to describe and genuinely hard to practice. Let the small things go. Save your energy for what actually matters, and let people watch you do it. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the next habit is the one that flips almost everything people assume about confidence. The habit. Almost everyone gets backwards. Most people assume respect comes from certainty, from having an answer for everything, from never showing doubt. It's almost the opposite. Research on perceived competence has found something consistently surprising. People who occasionally, appropriately admit, "I don't know," or "I was wrong about that," are trusted more, not less, than people who never do. Constant certainty actually reads as suspicious over time, because everyone knows, at some level, that nobody is right about everything. Someone who never admits otherwise isn't coming across as more competent. They're coming across as someone managing an image. The habit here is deceptively simple. Say, "I don't know," when you don't. Say, "I was wrong," when you were. Most people avoid this because it feels like it will cost them respect. It's the opposite. It's often the exact moment respect is earned, because it's proof that what you say the rest of the time can actually be trusted. This one habit alone quietly reframes almost everything else on this list, because it's not really about appearing confident. It's about being reliably honest. And there's one more habit, tied directly to that almost nobody talks about. The habit of following through on small things. Here's the last one, and it might be the most underrated of all. Most people focus on big, visible promises, showing up for the major moment, delivering on the big project. But respect is disproportionately built, or quietly destroyed, by the small things. Saying you'll send something, and sending it. Saying you'll be somewhere at a specific time, and being there. Remembering a small detail someone mentioned once, and bringing it up again later. None of these are impressive on their own. That's exactly the point. Because they're small, they're the moments people aren't consciously grading you on, which means when you consistently follow through anyway, it registers as something deeper than good manners. It registers as someone whose word actually means something. Over time, this becomes the foundation everything else on this list rests on. You can listen well, stay humble, admit when you're wrong. But if your word doesn't consistently hold up in the small things, none of the rest fully lands. And if it does hold up consistently in the small things, people notice, even when they can't quite articulate why they trust you more than most. So, back to where we started. The most respected person in the room isn't the loudest one. Now you know exactly why. It's the person who listens until you're actually finished, who can say, "You're right," without flinching, who admits, "I don't know," instead of faking certainty, and who follows through on the small things, consistently, even when no one's keeping score. None of these habits are dramatic. None of them require you to perform confidence, or dominate a room, or win every conversation. They're quiet, which is exactly why they work, and exactly why so few people actually practice them. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You just need to be the most consistent one. If this changed how you think about respect, share it with someone who deserves to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.